Hi guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Getting Into TV. Usually, I'm chatting to a TV professional about how they got into TV and about what they do and how you guys can get into TV. But this week, I've got a special bonus episode where I'll be chatting to Yeota, who is the project facilitator on the Open Door Initiative. I'm very excited to chat to you, Yeota. Thank you for being here.
Welcome. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you. I suppose the best place to start really is just how did you get into TV? I think that would be a really good place for people listening or watching, just to kind of get an idea of who you are and what it is you do.
So I'm Cardiff based and I always wanted to get into media. I wanted to actually work in films and my parents just thought I was absolutely crazy. So then I thought, okay, not films, maybe I'll go into documentaries. But my parents again weren't very keen on me doing this. They were like, it's not a very stable career, which I totally understand now. 20 years on. So I started off actually doing like a business degree with German and I absolutely hated it. So 3 months in, I called my dad crying and said, I just don't want to do this. And he said, okay. So I took it and then I went into Bournemouth University to do a new media production degree, which at the time was very new. It was all internet. It's all about photoshopping and creating digital media. I did that for a year. Then I did a master's in TV and video production also at Bournemouth University. And then I was, I guess, headhunted to work at a channel called Islam Channel. That was the first Islamic channel in the UK, in the West actually. So that was quite interesting. And that started my sort of journey in the media industry. So it's, I guess, slightly different, but I think what makes working in the media industry really interesting, like there's no one right way to get to where you
Mhm.
want to be. There's so many different ways and avenues and opportunities that come about. You should grab them and just make the most of it. So I worked my way up from studio operator to head of women's programming, where I did
Mhm.
daily live shows, documentary series, pre-recorded series, promos, live events, adverts. Got to travel a lot, went to Dubai, went to China, went to Jordan. So that was really exciting. After that, I took a bit of a career break and came back to Cardiff. I did some work with a little company called Little Bird Films, where I did some development work. It was quite a transition going from sort of, I guess, niche media into mainstream media.
Yeah.
And then from that, I got onto the BBC AP Accelerator course, which was just, when something just happens at the right time for you in life. And it was brilliant. It kind of got me into the industry, got me connected to loads of people within the media industry in the Welsh sector. And I guess it was a brilliant year of training, getting to know people, working on different productions, working on shows like Fight the Power, Crime Watch, and various other sort of factual entertainment shows. Currently, I'm doing something a little bit different, but still within the media sector. It's really nice because I'm kind of giving back to the community.
Yeah.
One thing I'm really sort of keen about is diversity. I think there's huge sort of lacking of diversity in the Welsh media sector. I think generally, but definitely in the Welsh media sector. And I remember when I came into sort of BBC Wales for the first time, I just found it a very sort of white landscape. And the only
Completely.
people of colour were security, catering, and cleaning staff. And that just didn't sit well with me because outside of those four walls, we had such a multicultural society. So diversity is something I really do talk about. And I think the industry is making some headway in that sort of direction, but there has to be a lot more work done. So I thought, you know what, I need to put money where my mouth is and see if I can create some diversity, which is why I took on this job as a training and development officer.
I mean, I completely agree with you with what you say about the Welsh industry being very white. I've noticed it from the day I started. What you're doing with this, I think, it's definitely needed, and hopefully it can do some good. But also, what you say about people having different ways into the industry. That's why I love talking to everyone on this podcast because it
Yeah,
just
yeah,
highlights
yeah.
that not one way is the right
Absolutely.
way. Because I feel
Yes.
like sometimes you can have that fear that I need to do it by the book. I need to do it like this. And it's not like that. If you've got a passion for something, you can do it in completely different ways. And there's so many opportunities available to you. You've got a great career. I just want to say it is a pretty cool career.
Oh, thank you
Um,
so much.
no pleasure. So getting on to the Open Door Initiative, can you tell me a bit about what it is and what can people expect from the scheme?
Okay, so this is a project funded by Media Cymru Project, and it's been facilitated by two production companies, Rondo Media and Boom Cymru. Just to give you a little bit of background about Media Cymru, it's basically a consortium who have a shared aim to turn Cardiff Capital Region into a global hub for media innovation with a focus on green and fair economic growth. They have a year-long development program, and they also have a funding program called the Innovation Pipeline. So if you have any innovative ideas to help change the media industry or to help the media industry, definitely check their website out. They're doing really, really great work. They're the funders of this scheme, and the two production companies, Ronda Media, it's a major UK independent multi-genre production company. They do a lot of Welsh language programming and also English. And Boom is one of Wales's largest production groups. Again, multi-genre company and produces over 400 hours of content. They actually won a Broadcast Magazine's Best Place to Work award in 2023. So these two production companies, again, have put money where their mouth is. They obviously have realized this sort of deficit within the media industry for people from a certain group. So this scheme is specifically for people from a lower income background. Research has shown that if the UK's creative industries were as socioeconomically diverse as the rest of the economy, there would be 250,000 more working class people employed in this sector. So this deficit is equivalent to the size of the creative workforce in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. That's a massive, massive amount. So this scheme is targeting people from this community. And what's great about this scheme is that it's for anyone. You don't have to have any media experience, any TV experience, or have studied any courses within the media sector. You just have to be 18, come from a low income background, and preferably you're a Welsh speaker as well. The reason for that is that the productions from June onwards, when the scheme starts, are just mainly Welsh language programming. The one thing I do want to stress is that you don't have to be fluent Welsh speaker. So it's just that everyone around in the set, on the set, will be speaking Welsh.
That sounds an amazing opportunity. What kind of programs would successful applicants be working on across the year? What does the kind of year look like for
Yeah.
potential person that will be on there?
Okay, so it's an 8-month scheme. It's fully paid, so it's based on the real living wage. We are looking for 6 trainees who we're going to be training throughout those 8 months. So they'll have a stint at Rondo, a stint at. What's really interesting about the scheme is that once we do shortlist, you will be talking about your skills and I guess your interest. It's hard to know what you'll be interested in unless you've actually worked in those roles. So they're all entry-level roles. So depending on your experience and where you want to see yourself, we'll actually put you into sort of the roles that we think you'd sort of excel in. You'll get to try out different roles. So you might be like a runner and a researcher, or a runner and a camera assistant, or a researcher and a production assistant, or you can go into social media. So we have roles in Cardiff, we have roles in Carnarvon, we have roles in Anglesey. What's also great is that you'll have a mentor throughout the 8 months. We'll be able to guide you through sort of your sort of career progression, where you see yourself, and aid you in that, and also have a work buddy. You'll have a lot of contact with me as well. So I'll be able to, sort of be your agony aunt or just sort of just generally any questions that you might have, I'll be there to answer that.
I think the beauty of schemes like this is not only does it give you that job, but it gives you that safety net to kind of make mistakes, if you know what I mean. Both done the APAP, I'm on it now. And obviously you can make mistakes anytime in your career. Everyone's a human, you can make mistakes whenever. But the beauty of a program like this is you get to play, you get to make the mistakes, you get to meet people and really kind of see where it is you want to go. So for anyone that really wants to apply, I think personally this sounds like an amazing opportunity. I'm not just saying that because you're here. It does. I
No,
know
I think it's an amazing opportunity as
I
well.
know
Yeah.
firsthand just how good programs like this can be, and they're so beneficial, especially now when the industry is so kind of, there's no words to describe the industry right now. Like something like this is so beneficial. So to anyone out there that is thinking about applying, just do it, because you never know where it might get you and what you might learn on there. You mentioned obviously that
Absolutely.
it's aimed towards those from a lower socioeconomic background. Can you just kind of, for anyone watching or listening that may not know exactly what that means or anything, can you just explain why is there a focus on that, and what is that?
As I sort of mentioned, there is a huge sort of deficit of people from this sort of category in the sort of media industry. So it could be people who were eligible for free school meals in school, or people who are sort of in state-run schools, or you could be someone who's a refugee, someone who's unemployed, someone who's on benefits. You could be a single parent, you could be a carer, you could be from the care system. So it kind of encompasses quite a lot. We're not going to means test you. We're going to obviously take the fact that you're saying that you're from that background. It's kind of giving those opportunities to that sort of sector. It could be people who always wanted to get into that media industry from that sort of group, but never had the opportunity, because it's hard. We know how hard it is to get into the media industry. If you don't have connections, if you don't know where to even look, it can be very daunting. So this scheme is there to help and make it easy for people to sort of apply. Even in the interview process, it's going to be a chat. We don't want you to be stressed or you have to really prep for it. It's just about your passions, why you think you'd be good for the industry, what you're watching. I think that's just something that's really important. You need to watch a lot of telly to want to be in this industry. So just watch a lot of telly, just be, watch things you don't like even. You learn from that as well.
Is it people from Wales only to apply?
Not necessarily. We've had applications from Bristol, and I think one of the applications from Bristol was a fluent Welsh speaker, which was great. The other thing I wanted to mention is that on a case by case basis, offer a travel bursary. So if you are a little bit outside of Cardiff, you might have to relocate, which obviously is very costly.
Mm.
You know, you have to travel in every day, depending on where you're sort of based. We can provide you with a travel bursary. So that's for the interview and for the actual placement itself.
That's really good. That's really good, and more places should offer that. This initiative is an amazing initiative, and people can learn so much on it, and it will be really beneficial. Hopefully, it's not only the people that do it, but to the Welsh industry as a whole, and the industry as a whole. But it's very nearly the deadline, right?
It is, and you have got like the weekend. So the deadline's Wednesday, the 1st of May at 11:30 p.m. So even if you're working, you can come home and just quickly do the application form. It's very quick and simple. It shouldn't take you more than like, I don't know, 40 minutes, maybe half an hour.
I suppose one thing that's worth highlighting is even though when you're on the scheme, I do it now, even when I'm in a job, just ask questions, just be curious, and that will really help you after the scheme as well, because people will start to understand who you are and what you want to do, and they'll start to understand your personality. And that's what a lot of this industry is, I think. Sometimes it's about personality. It can be such a tough industry. We want to work with people that have got that good personality, if that makes sense. Just be curious and love telly, love what you do.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, that's really, really important. I think, you know, sometimes you think, oh my God, that's such a stupid question. It isn't, because we've all been there. Sometimes being in the media industry, we use certain terminologies, and for people who are just starting off, it might be like, what are they talking about? So please don't be afraid to ask. I know it probably takes a bit of courage and you know, sort of a bit of confidence to ask those questions, but you know, ask away. You know, you've got access to people who've been in the industry, they've got masses of experiences. They can even connect you with people, and it's all about networking, telling people what you want to work in. Everyone has their unique sort of lived experience and you know, interests. I come from a certain background. I've got certain experiences and passions
Mm.
that you know you don't have, and vice versa. And you can bring that to any sort of production company that you know that you're working with. I guess everyone has that speciality, and you know, utilize that. If you've got ideas, really sort of reach out to everyone within the production company. And, you know, if there's an idea you've got, ask to have a meeting with someone in development and just get
Definitely.
tips and sort of, you know, bounce ideas off someone. This is about asking and create the opportunities for yourself.
The best advice I've got on this APAP is just email people. Basically, just watch the credits, email them and ask
Yes,
them for a coffee, or just tell them how much you love something. You don't have to ask them for a job,
100%.
but just
Yeah.
say, I really like that. Because even with talent managers, I basically made a film on the last years of Crime Watch. And rather than just emailing and be like, I want a job, I was saying, I just wanted to let you know that I've done this. And I think sometimes just letting people know the good news rather than asking is so much more beneficial sometimes, just because they see that you think of them more than just that, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Just keep in contact
And
and ask for that coffee,
contact, yeah.
and just make yourself known. I've just got a couple more questions. I just want to know from you, because you've had such a great career and you're doing this now. What is it that you love about telly?
It's a really good question. I love telly. I love this sort of TV industry because it just connects you to worlds that you generally wouldn't have access to otherwise,
Yeah.
opinions that you wouldn't hear about, or a different perspective. It takes you out of your sort of comfort zone, takes you out of your world, your headspace, and puts you into a world that you've never even thought about or known about. It's about learning about different human beings, learning about how they think, how they live, and kind of doing away with the other. Like, you know, your way of living is not the best way of living. I think it kind of not humbles you, it just expands your mind. And I think that's so amazing about the industry. Everybody has an interesting story to tell. That's why diversity is so, so important, because if you have everyone looking the same from the same background, there's not going to be any interesting stories that you're going to come across.
Exactly.
Whereas if you have people from different backgrounds, different ages, different social class, and from different parts of the world, that's when you have edgy, creative, dynamic programming. And that's why it's so imperative within the media industry to do that, because we've got responsibility to tell, you know, interesting, factual stories. And I think obviously a lot of things are happening around in the world at the moment, and sometimes both sides of the stories isn't always told properly. So diversity is key in bringing the other side's perspective into debate and into discussion. I think it's also giving back to the community. When I was young, I didn't have people who looked like me in the media industry. And that's sadly still quite the case now in sort of Wales. So what I do at the moment is I've started like teaching with a woman called Angela Clark, who's a Cardiff-based Scottish filmmaker, very, very incredibly talented. And we do evening classes and at Grangetown Pavilion for girls from sort of 16 to 14 to 18. And so we're teaching them how to make documentaries. We're teaching them the process of what it is to have a film, the characters, the access, the importance of all that, having a story arc. And at the end, we'll do basic camera training with them, editing training with them. And at the end of it, they're going to create their own 2-3 minute film that they're going to film, and we're going to help edit as well. So we're going to be at the end of it, have 8 very unique stories that I want people to create because that's their story and that's very unique to them. I think it's like not only creating programming, which, I've done now for about 12, nearly 14, 15 years. For me now, my career, what I'd like it to look like is trying to give back to people, trying to get people into the industry, being their sort of, guide and, connecting them with people. And another bit of work that I do is with UK Muslim Film. So they're BFI based back charity, and they basically help with representation of Islam and Muslims within the media industry. Sadly, there's perception of Islam and Muslim isn't best in films and TV. So what we do is we consult on scripts. So we've consulted on Hollyoaks for the past few years, The Screw, The Bay on ITV. And it's also sort of a platform to get Muslim creators connected to the industry. It's basically making sure that those stereotypes that exist are sort of, really sort of scrutinized and sort of eradicated as much as possible. So there's lots of work to do,
There is a lot of work, but hopefully something like this can help. I think it's just things like what you're doing and from what I love doing with this podcast is just talking to people and just letting people hear that, like we said at the start, just letting people hear the story and hear how people are, I suppose, getting into the industry. It's different to one another. I honestly, I think what you're doing is
100%.
amazing, and I really hope it does some good because, like you say, the industry is a poorer place without that diversity, and not just the industry, but the TV landscape,
Absolutely.
the movie landscape.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. I've got one more question for you, and it just goes back to something you said to me earlier on in the episode. It's just the importance of watching TV. What have you been watching recently?
Oh gosh.
This is always the question
Do
that
you know
stops
what?
people.
This is like, you're putting me on the spot because I have not watched anything recently because I've been in Jeddah for 2 weeks. I've been in Ramadan mode. So we've just come out of Ramadan. So it's a month of basically fasting and just staying away from anything I normally do. But I did watch something last night and it was an ITV production. It's about Ramadan in Britain.
Mm.
It's actually really, really great. I want to watch Big Zeus Goes to Mecca. I don't know if you heard about that. He basically went to Mecca and that was released a few weeks ago. So that's something I want to really watch as well.
Thank you so much, Yeota. For anyone watching, you might have noticed that somewhere else. Basically, there was someone waiting to get in the meeting room, so I've had to clear off and go somewhere else and start recording elsewhere. But we just wanted to mention just before the end of the episode that if you want to apply, you've got until the 1st of May at 11 o'clock at night. Is that right?
30 p.m. Yeah.
And if you want to apply, either go via the link below or use the QR code that is somewhere by me right now or Yeota, somewhere there will be a QR code and you can use that. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, like we've said, not just about the program, but just hearing about what's going on in Wales and about what's happening in the TV industry. I think it's just nice for people to hear what you're doing, really, and to hear that there is something going on. It is a scary industry, especially now, like we've said. So I think it's nice to give people hope, I think.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And hopefully by the end of the scheme, it'll be February time and hopefully things would have, started picking up and
Definitely.
more commissions would be greenlit. So hopefully a lot more work for people to get into as well.
Definitely. Well, thank you so much, Yeota. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you so much. You too.